Learn about the world. Bhutan. Bhutan, known as the Land of the Dragon, is a small country in Asia, located east of the Himalayas, south of China, Tibet, Autonomous Region, bordering the Indian states of Sikkim, West Bengal, Assam and Arunachal Pradesh, also bordering Nepal and Bangladesh. It controls several important Himalayan mountain passes. Basic information. Full name, Kingdom of Bhutan. Government type, constitutional monarchy by democracy. ISO, BT, BTN. Country domain, BT. Time zone, +6 o'clock. Phone code, +975. Capital, Thimphu. Major cities, Paro, Phincholing, Punakha, Bumthang. District, Bumthang, Chuka, Dagana, Gasa, Ha, Luntsi. Mongar, Paro Pamagachal, Pemagatsal, Punakha, Samdrup Jongkar, Samtsi, Samchi, Sarpong, Thimphu, Trashigong, Tashigong, Trashiangs, Trongsa, Tongsa, Sarang, Sharang, Wangdu Phodrang, Wandi Phodrang. Zamang, Shemgang. Cities and towns, Jakar, Mongar, Paro, Punakha, Phuentsholing, Samdrup Jongkar, Thimphu, Trashigong, Insa. Area, 38,394 square kilometers. Terrain, mountains. From the Himalayas to the lower foothills to plains with semi-tropical forests, savanna grasslands and bamboo forests. Climate. Bhutan's climate varies by latitude. From subtropical in the south to temperate in the highlands and polar in snow-capped peaks in the north. Population, 796,507, May 2025. Ethnicity, Bhutan. Note, the Bhutanese call them the Drukpas. Religion, Vajrayana Buddhism, Drukpa Kagayupa, is the national religion, Hindu and Nepalese 25%. Languages, Dzongkha, official language, English, teaching. Natural resources, hydroelectricity, timber, gypsum, calcium carbide. Agricultural products, rice, maize, tubers, citrus, food, dairy products, eggs. Industries, cement, wood products, processed fruit, alcoholic beverages, carbide. Exports, commodities, to India, ferrosilicon, cement, calcium carbide, copper wire, manganese, vegetable oil. Exports partners, India, Hong Kong. Imports, commodities, fuels and lubricants, passenger vehicles, machinery and spare parts, fabrics, rice. Imports partners, India, South Korea. Currency, Ingultram, BTN, Indian Ruble, INR. Foreign relations. In the early 20th century, Bhutan became a de facto protectorate of the British Empire under the Treaty of Punakha in 1910. British protection guarded Bhutan from Tibet and Qing China. In the aftermath of the Chinese Communist Revolution, Bhutan signed a friendship treaty with the newly independent Dominion of India in 1949. Bhutan maintains strong economic, strategic, and military relations with India. In February 2007, the Indo-Bhutan Friendship Treaty was substantially revised, clarifying Bhutan's full control of its foreign relations as well as its independence and sovereignty. Whereas the Treaty of 1949, Article 2 stated, the Government of India undertakes to exercise no interference in the internal administration of Bhutan. Bhutan does not have formal diplomatic ties with China, but exchanges of visits at various levels between them have significantly increased in recent times. The first bilateral agreement between China and Bhutan was signed in 1998, and Bhutan has also set up honorary consulates in the special administrative regions of Hong Kong and Macau. Bhutan has very warm relations with Japan, which provides significant development assistance. The Bhutanese royals were hosted by the Japanese imperial family during a state visit in 2011. Japan is also helping Bhutan cope with glacial floods by developing an early warning system. Bhutan enjoys strong political and diplomatic relations with Bangladesh. Bhutan has diplomatic relations with 56 of 193 member states of the United Nations and the European Union. Bhutan's limited number of such relations, including the absence of formal relations with any of the permanent members of the United Nations Security Council, is part of a deliberate isolationist policy of limiting foreign influence in the state. This stance has been safeguarded by close relations with India, of which Bhutan has previously been considered a protected state. In 1971, sponsored by India, Bhutan began to develop its foreign relations by joining the United Nations. In 1981, Bhutan joined the International Monetary Fund and World Bank, followed by the World Health Organization and UNESCO in 1982. It is also an active member of the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, SAARC. Bhutan is currently a member of 45 international organizations, under Article 20 of the Constitution of Bhutan enacted in 2008. Bhutan's foreign relations fall under the purview of the Druk Gyalpo on the advice of the executive, namely the Prime Minister and other ministers of the Lungye Zhungtishog, including the Minister of Foreign Affairs. Bhutan has embassies in Bangladesh, Belgium, India, Kuwait, Australia and Thailand. Conversely, only Bangladesh, India, and Kuwait have embassies in Thimphu. Israel is the latest country to establish diplomatic relations with Bhutan. Bhutan has no diplomatic relations with its northern neighbor, the People's Republic of China, and is one of the few countries to not recognize or have relations with either of the two Chinas. The Philippines and Bhutan have no formal relations yet. The Philippines has an embassy in New Delhi. Bhutan and South Korea established formal relations on the 24th of September 1987. Turkey and Bhutan established diplomatic relations in 2012. The United States and Bhutan have no official diplomatic ties, however, they both maintain warm, informal relations with each other, as well as consular relations. Nepal and Bhutan established relations in 1983. However, since 1992, relations with Nepal have been tense due to the repatriation of refugees from Bhutan. Human rights in Bhutan are those outlined in Article 7 of its constitution. The royal government of Bhutan has affirmed its commitment to the enjoyment of all human rights as integral to the achievement of gross national happiness, GNH. The unique principle which Bhutan strives for, as opposed to fiscally based measures such as GDP. In practice, Bhutan's human rights record has received criticism for the treatment of the Lhotshampa people, many of whom became refugees in Nepal, as well as for failure to uphold freedom of religion. In 2024, Freedom House rated Bhutan's human rights at 63 out of 100, partly free. Bhutan's constitution was adopted in 2008, and only after that was it transformed from an absolute monarchy to a democratic constitutional monarchy. Article 7 of the Constitution establishes numerous rights, including many of the basic human rights enriched in international conventions, which are said to be essential for development of the human personality and for the full realization of the human potential. Fundamental rights established in Article 7 include life, liberty, and security, freedom of speech, freedom of thought and religion, freedom of the press, freedom of movement and residence within Bhutan, property, freedom of assembly and association, freedom from discrimination on grounds of race, sex, language, religion, politics, or other status. Article 8.3 states that every Bhutanese citizen is under a duty to foster tolerance, mutual respect and spirit of brotherhood amongst all the people of Bhutan, transcending religious, linguistic, regional or sectional diversities. Article 8.5 states that people should not tolerate or participate in acts of injury, torture or killing of another person, terrorism, abuse of women, children or any other person, and shall take necessary steps to prevent such acts. Although Bhutan's constitution was framed to reflect various basic human rights protected by international conventions, Bhutan itself has neither signed nor ratified many key international treaties addressing human rights, including the International Covenant of Civil and Political Rights, ICCPR, and the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, ICESCR. Bhutan joined the United Nations in 1971. It has therefore been subject to the Universal Periodic Review, UPR, having gone through 2 cycles so far, first in 2009 and again in 2014. In its national report under the first cycle of the UPR, Bhutan's royal government asserted that the enjoyment of all human rights is necessary to achieve gross national happiness, to which it is also deeply committed. Bhutan's first national report to the UPR explicitly related these pillars to human rights, which it said were embodied within them. Bhutan's refugee situation has been categorized by Amnesty International as one of the most protracted and neglected refugee crises in the world, with possible resolutions to the crisis continuing to have been raised in the report of the Working Group for Bhutan's second UPR cycle. The United States Department of State has noted in its 2015 report on Bhutan's human rights practices that there were unconfirmed reports of ongoing discrimination towards Lhotshampas, preventing them from obtaining security clearances necessary to work in government jobs, from enrolling in higher education and obtaining licenses necessary to run private businesses. Article 7.4 of the Constitution of Bhutan states that a Bhutanese citizen shall have the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. No person shall be compelled to belong to another faith by means of coercion or inducement. 75% of Bhutan's approximate population of 733,000 practices Drukpa Kagyu or Nyingmapa Buddhism, which are forms of Mahayana Buddhism. In 2024, Freedom House rated Bhutan's religious freedom as 2 out of 4, noting that the constitution protects freedom of religion. But local authorities are known to harass non-Buddhists, and people have experienced pressure to participate in Buddhist ceremonies and practices. Transport in Bhutan uses about 8,000 kilometers, 5,000 mi, of roads and 4 airports, 3 of which are operational and interconnected. Paro Airport is the only airport which accommodates international flights. As part of Bhutan's infrastructure modernization programs, its road system has been under development since the 1960s. There are no railways, although one is planned, and as Bhutan is a landlocked country with no major waterways, there are no ports. Bhutan had a total of 8,050 kilometers, 5,000 mi, of roads in 2003. 4,991 kilometers, 3,101 miles, of which were paved, and 3,059 kilometers, 1,901 miles, unpaved. Bhutan also provided labor for the construction work. Another road was built to connect Trashigang with Tawang, Arunachal Pradesh. The country's primary road is the East-West Highway, known locally as the Lateral Road, which began construction in 1962. The road begins in Phuntsholing on the southwestern Indian border and ends in Trashigang in the far east, with spurs to other major centers such as Paro, Thimphu, and Punakha. The 2.5 meters wide, 8.2 feet, lateral road must support traffic in both directions, since the cost of cutting a wider road through the Middle Himalayas would be prohibitive. Safety barriers. Road markings and signage are sparse. Traffic is slow, typically about 15 kilometers per hour, 9.3 miles per hour, to minimize head-on collisions. Road accidents are still frequent and, because of the steep topography, typically horrific. Most of the route between Paro Airport and Thimphu has been improved as a two-lane road. The lateral road traverses a number of high passes, including Tremolala and Duchula. The highest pass on the road is at Chapcha. The second highest pass is at Trumshingla, in central Bhutan, at an altitude of over 3,800 meters. Main roads in western and eastern Bhutan are maintained by Dantak, a task force of India's Border Roads Organization. Roads in the rest of the country are maintained by the Bhutanese government's Department of Roads. Much of the country's geology is unstable and there are frequent slips and landslides, aggravated by the summer monsoon and winter snowstorms and frost heaving. An international aid project is underway to stabilize the worst sections of the road. A major Japanese aid project aims to replace most of the narrow, single-track bridges with two-way girder spans capable of carrying heavier traffic. A national driver licensing system includes a driving test. Government drivers are trained at the Samthang Vocational Training Institute's driving school, formerly the National Driving Training Institute. The roads have traffic lights. Although a stoplight in Thimphu was dismantled, there are reportedly plans to reinstall it. Since 2014, road widening has been a priority across Bhutan. In particular for the Northeast-West Highway from Trashigong to Dochula. The widening project is expected to be completed by the end of 2017 and will make road travel across the country substantially faster and more efficient. In addition, it is projected that the improved road conditions will encourage more tourism in the more inaccessible eastern region of Bhutan. Bhutan has 4 airports: Paro, Bathpalathang, Yongphula, and Gelaphu Airport. Paro, the country's only international airport, is in a steep-sided valley with its approaches restricted to visual flight rules. During the monsoon season, flights are often delayed by cloud cover. Drukair is the national carrier, connecting Paro with other countries. The airport is one of the highest and most challenging airports at which to land. Minimal equipment is available to pilots, and special training is required to land in the narrow valley on the short runway. Winds and bad weather may delay or cancel a flight, and the best travel times are April to May and October to November. Bathpalathang and Yongphula are Bhutan's domestic airports. An international airport was planned for the Gelaphu site, but the project's scope was downgraded to a domestic airport in October 2008. In January 2010, the Bhutanese Department of Civil Aviation indicated that the domestic airport at Gelaphu may be expanded into an all-weather airport capable of international traffic in the future. Education. Western-style education was introduced to Bhutan during the reign of Ugyen Wangchuck, 1907–26. Until the 1950s, the only formal education available to Bhutanese students, except for private schools in Ha and Bumthang, was through Buddhist monasteries. By the late 1950s, there were 29 government and 30 private primary schools, but only about 2,500 children were enrolled. Secondary education was available only in India. Eventually, the private schools were taken under government supervision to raise the quality of education provided. Although some primary schools in remote areas had to be closed because of low attendance, The most significant modern developments in education came during the period of the First Development Plan, 1961 to 66, when some 108 schools were operating and 15,000 students were enrolled. The Human Rights Measurement Initiative, HRMI, finds that Bhutan is fulfilling only 73.1% of what it should be fulfilling for the right to education based on the country's level of income. HRMI breaks down the right to education by looking at the rights to both primary education and secondary education. While taking into consideration Bhutan's income level, the nation is achieving 73.8% of what should be possible based on its resources, income, for primary education but only 72.5% for secondary education. Some primary schools and all junior high and high schools were boarding schools. The school year in the 1980s ran from March through December. Tuition, books, stationery, athletic equipment, and food were free for all boarding schools in the 1980s, and some high schools also provided clothing. With the assistance of the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization's World Food Program, free midday meals were provided in some primary schools. Higher education was provided by Royal Bhutan Polytechnic just outside the village of Deothang, Samdrup Jongkar District, and by Kurbandi Technical School in Kurbandi, Chukka District. Founded in 1973, Royal Bhutan Polytechnic offered courses in civil, mechanical, and electrical engineering, surveying, and drafting. Education programs were given a boost in 1990 when the Asian Development Bank granted a $7.13 million United States dollars loan for staff training and development, specialist services, equipment and furniture purchases, salaries and other recurrent costs, and facility rehabilitation and construction at Royal Bhutan Polytechnic. The Department of Education and its Technical and Vocational Education Division were given a $750,000 United States dollars Asian Development Bank grant for improving the technical, vocational, and training sectors. The new approach to primary education, started in 1985, was extended to all primary and junior high schools in 1990 and stressed self-reliance and awareness of Bhutan's unique national culture and environment. Most Bhutanese students being educated abroad received technical training in India, Singapore, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, Britain, Germany, and the United States. English-speaking countries attracted the majority of Bhutanese students. The vast majority returned to their homeland. Most Bhutanese students being educated abroad received technical training in India, Singapore, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, Britain, Germany, and the United States. English-speaking countries attracted the majority of Bhutanese students. The vast majority returned to their homeland. The number of girls in Bhutan receiving an education is increasing. However, women still fall behind men due to things such as early pregnancy and gender stereotypes. Tertiary education is a field in which Bhutanese women fall behind in, mainly due to high maternal mortality rates and early pregnancy. However, the primary enrollment rate for girls attending school was 98.8% compared to boys, which was 97% in 2016. This is due to the government increasing its investment in human capital in the last 30 years. Since the beginning of education in Bhutan, teachers from India, especially Kerala, have served in some of the most remote villages of Bhutan. In honor for their services, 43 retired teachers who served for a long time were invited to Thimphu, Bhutan during the Teachers' Day celebrations in 2018 and individually thanked by His Majesty Jigme Khesar Namgyal Wangchuk. To celebrate 50 years of diplomatic relations between Bhutan and India, 80 teachers who served in Bhutan were honored by the Education Minister J. Bir Rai at a special ceremony organized in Kolkata, India on 6 January 2019. Currently, There are 121 teachers from India placed in schools across Bhutan. On April 4, 2023, the spokesperson of the Indian Ministry of Foreign Relations confirmed that India would continue to extend educational assistance. Today, Bhutan has 2 decentralized universities with 11 constituent colleges spread across the kingdom. These are the Royal University of Bhutan and the Kasar Galpo University of Medical Sciences of Bhutan, respectively. Healthcare. Health in Bhutan is one of the government's highest priorities in its scheme of development and modernization. Health and related issues are overseen by the Ministry of Health, itself represented on the Executive Lungye Zhengtishag cabinet by the Minister of Health. As a component of gross national happiness, affordable and accessible healthcare is central to the public policy of Bhutan. 4. The Human Rights Measurement Initiative, 6, finds that Bhutan is fulfilling 85.5% of what it should be fulfilling for the right to health based on its level of income. When looking at the right to health with respect to children, Bhutan achieves 91.8% of what is expected based on its current income. In regards to the right to health amongst the adult population, the country achieves only 80.7% of what is expected based on the nation's level of income. Bhutan falls into the bad category when evaluating the right to reproductive health because the nation is fulfilling only 84.1% of what the nation is expected to achieve based on the resources, income it has available. Healthcare infrastructure and services are planned and developed through 5-year plans, FYP, of the Ministry of Health. 2 major pieces of Bhutanese legislation establish a framework for personnel and medicines. The Medical and Health Council Act of 2002 incorporates the Medical and Health Council as a legal entity to regulate medical schools, courses, and professional credentials. The Medicines Act of 2003 establishes the Bhutan Medicines Board and Drugs Technical Advisory Committee. The Act authorizes several subsidiary organizations, including the Bhutanese Drug Regulatory Authority, Drug Testing Laboratory, and teams of drug inspectors. These agencies have rulemaking and law enforcement authority on drugs, medicines, and even price controls, but must operate within the laws of Bhutan. As of 2013, there were 32 hospitals across Bhutan. Most Dzongkhag had at least one hospital, with the exception of Gasa. Thimphu had 5 hospitals, while Chuka, Samtsi, and Trashigong districts each had 3. Every Dzongkhag had a number of smaller medical facilities, and Thimphu had an indigenous hospital facility available. One of the more notable hospitals is the Jigme Dorji Wangchuk National Referral Hospital in Thimphu. These hospitals and smaller facilities were supported by 3,756 Ministry of Health employees in 13 categories, 244 doctors, 957 nurses, 92 nurses assistants, 505 health workers, 35 Dzongkhag health officers and assistants, 41 drungtishos, traditional physicians, 52 menpas, traditional physicians, 12 pharmacists, 79 pharmacy assistants and technicians, 13 lab technologists, 549 other technicians and assistants, and 1,601 administrative and support staff. On May 2, 2011, Bhutan launched its Telephonic Health Help Center, HHC, which had proved successful over the prior 2 months. The cost and availability of healthcare facilities, some of which operate on a 24-hour basis, is a subject of discussion in Bhutan. Issues of affordability and sustainability have called into question Bhutan's proposed funding schemes. Health issues. In 2011, there were 246 reported cases of HIV, representing just over 0.3% of the population. Through 2010, infection rates remained modest though increasing. totaling 185 reported cases, or 0.1% of the population. The Ministry of Health attributed climbing numbers to promiscuity, drug use, and the prevalence of HIV, AIDS in neighboring countries. As of 2008, 90% of the population were covered by the government's immunization regimen. In 2010, the Ministry of Health noted a growing trend of unsafe abortions among Bhutanese women, 466 in 2003. 1,057 in 2009, apparently performed in neighboring India, contributing to Bhutan's high maternal mortality rate. In 2011, Bhutan had a maternal mortality rate of 200 per 100,000. Bhutan regulates public health and safety in regards to food under the Food Act of 2005. The Food Act establishes the National Food Quality and Safety Commission and the Bhutan Agriculture and Food Regulatory Authority, BAFRA, both of which are overseen by the Ministry of Agriculture. The Commission formulates the government's food policy, while the BAFRA is responsible for advising and implementing the Commission's policies, including health and safety inspections. Tobacco sale and consumption is actively discouraged by the government of Bhutan through education, economic, and penal incentives. The Tobacco Control Act bans the sale of tobacco, taxes imports, and places restrictions on quantities individuals may possess. In 2011, the government passed its alcohol control regulation, which imposed up to 3 times the previous taxes on alcohol. As a result, alcohol sales have dropped and prices have risen. Alcohol consumption among students has risen in the recent past, resulting in several expulsions from Bhutan's elite Sharubutsi College. Sports in Bhutan comprise both traditional Bhutanese and modern international games. Archery is the national sport in Bhutan. Competitions are held regularly in most villages. Other traditional Bhutanese sports include Karu, Soksum, Pundo and Dajor. International sports enjoy considerable popularity in modern Bhutan. Besides archery, many people in Bhutan play basketball. Other popular sports include football and futsal. Cricket has gained popularity in Bhutan, particularly since the introduction of television channels from India. Traditional archery has been historically prominent in Bhutanese religion, ritual, and recreation, and enjoys modern popularity and practice in sekis, festivals, and matches. It differs from modern international archery in rules and metrics. Players shoot at comparatively small targets at great distances. Bhutan also participates in modern international archery competitions and maintains an Olympic archery team. Karu is an indigenous dart game, and like traditional archery, requires players to strike relatively small targets at long distances. Archery is a national and most popular sport in Bhutan and is organized nationally within the Bhutan Archery Federation. Karu, darts, is a popular outdoor team sport often played during festivals and archery tournaments. When playing Karu, heavy wooden darts pointed with a 10 cm (3.9 in) nail are thrown at a paperback-sized target 10 meters (33 feet) to 20 meters (66 feet) away. Soksum, akin to the javelin throw, is a sport in which players throw a javelin a distance of 20 meters (66 feet). Dajor is a game resembling shot put, horseshoes, and pétanque. It is played with a pair of spherical flat stones that are hurled at 2 targets, pegs, fixed in the ground about 20 meters (66 feet) apart. Pundo is a traditional Bhutanese game most resembling shot put. It is played by throwing a stone weighing over a kilo as far as possible. Bhutan participates in modern international sports in 3 main areas. Archery, the national sport, is played internationally as well as domestically using modern equipment, and the kingdom maintains an Olympic archery team. The sport of football in Bhutan is run by the Bhutan Football Federation. The association administers the Bhutan national football team as well as the A division. In 2002, Bhutan's national football team played Montserrat in what was billed as the other final. The match took place on the same day Brazil and Germany in the World Cup final, but at the time Bhutan and Montserrat were the world's two lowest-ranked teams. The Bhutan national cricket team represents the kingdom in international cricket matches and is one of the most successful affiliate nations in the region. Bhutan became an affiliate member of the ICC in 2001. They made their international debut at the 2004 ACC Trophy, where they made the quarter-finals. The Bhutan women's national cricket team made its international debut at the 2009 ACC Women's 2020 Championship. It has played regularly since then. The Bhutan Basketball Federation joined the International Basketball Federation (FIBA) in 1983. Its national team has played many qualification games for the FIBA Asia Championship but still waits for its breakthrough. The Bhutan national futsal team represents Bhutan in international futsal competitions and is controlled by the Bhutan Football Federation. As of 2023, baseball is the fastest-growing sport in Bhutan. The Bhutan Baseball and Softball Association reports that more than 6,000 children consistently play baseball. Bhutan was introduced to Kho-Kho, a traditional game of India, in 2019, and participated in the inaugural 2025 World Cup in India. Chonglimathang Stadium in Thimphu is the main venue for major sporting events in Bhutan, including archery and football, with a capacity of 25,000. The stadium has also hosted theatrical performances and celebrations as part of national holidays and major events such as the royal wedding in 2011, as archery is especially popular. Every village has a field for the sport,